I guess as a former nursing major or science major, STEM major, um, a lot of what you can find is true is based on data and evidence.
Okay.
And I don't want to sound like very hypocritical when I say this, but like I believe in God, but there's not a lot out there to just kind of like prove that God is real, or if God is the truth, or if whatever Christians or Catholics or anybody in that particular faith knows is like real or true in that kind of way.
Sure.
I go what I said earlier. It's like you gotta have some evidence or data to support that kind of stuff. That's what I'm gonna go with.
I guess without this data or evidence, how could you know if you were mistaken?
I guess you really can't.
Yeah, it is really. You're in control. You're in the driver's seat.
Oh, sweet. That's awesome.
I'm Veronica. What's your name?
I'm Jacob.
Jacob.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Pierce.
Pierce.
Nice to meet you, Pierce. All right, sweet. Okay. Epistemology.
What's that?
Epistemology.
Epistemology.
Epistemology. I'm sorry.
Very cool.
Tell me about it, I guess.
So, street epistemology, which is what we're doing.
Okay.
You want to make sure I'm in frame when I sit down.
Yep.
Is a conversational method. So, it's about talking to people about what they believe and why they believe it, and if they used good, viable methods or reasons to come to their conclusion.
Okay. Sounds good.
It sounds like something you'd be interested in doing.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
Cool.
I mean, honestly, nothing else better to do today, but I think yeah, didn't expect this, but
I don't think anybody really does.
So, I mean, yeah, right now, I actually just changed my major to psychology and I'm minoring in philosophy. So one of my classes that I'm taking this semester is like the introduction to the philosophy of religion. So, it's just weird because I was a nursing major and being put into like a different environment where people think differently. Like instead of like more scientifical, it's more of like the what if. So I just felt like I didn't belong right away. Just like in a room full of like philosophers or something like that. They just think so differently. And since this is a religion class, I was like, man, I got to think about what I believe now because I was raised Catholic. And then my mom taught me Christianity along the line because my mom and dad had two different variations of faith or something like that.
Like
so
different kinds of Christians.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So there's always this kind of moral conflict of what I believe in, what I think God is. I mean, as of right now, I still believe in that there's a God out there, more of like kind of like a agnostic like viewpoint of it.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of skewed away from what I believed in.
Like you're an agnostic theist?
Yeah, agnostic theist. Like I want to believe there's something out there, Just like, yeah. But
Gotcha.
yeah.
Would you like to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. I've already forgotten your name.
I'm Jacob.
Jacob. Did you say that earlier?
I believe so.
Oh, okay.
Because it's Victoria?
Veronica.
And
People
Pierce.
always do that.
Okay.
You can say any name that starts with a V.
I mean, Jacob.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So you're an agnostic theist. Is there a specific God you think is real?
Yeah. Just like, I mean, what I think God is, just God.
Just God.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. If you were to describe that God, what kind of words would you use?
Yeah. I guess in a more literal sense, it's not like, I don't think he's more, sorry, I said he, but I don't think God is male or female, or it's specifically gendered.
Gotcha.
I just think God is kind of like this being that watches over. I had to really think over like existential crises of like belief, going into public school, and especially university where you're surrounded by so many other people with different beliefs. Like it's just, you kind of have like that changed viewpoint. I believe God is out there. In a more literal sense, I believe something had to create something in a way. But that's where I'm at. Like I haven't really delved so much deeper as to think am I like practicing like Christian or practicing Catholic or whatever? Like I don't think so. I don't pray,
Okay.
but yeah, it just came to that point in my life at least. So
Gotcha. So you believe in a God, not necessarily a part of any practicing religion. A few things I heard you say. Being that is watches over. How confident are you that a God exists?
uh, I would lie to say I wasn't skeptical, but I want to say I'm fairly certain. So
So you're not 100% confident.
no, I think my mind is up to just like believing whatever. I mean, I'm the type of person that lives in the moment. So I mean, when it comes to
Sounds like you have a lot of open-mindedness,
Yeah.
willing to change your mind if you discover something else.
exactly,
Okay, fantastic. So to get to this fairly certain amount of confidence, I guess what is your main reason for being fairly certain?
I think that just has a lot to do with my upbringing, right? I mean, raised going to church every Sunday, being a part of the church. I think there's always a part of me that like a lot like other kids that are just like, I don't want to go to church, mom. Like, I don't want to sit down, listen to Psalms, or like sing at all, or like listen to the pastor, priest, whatever. Just like kind of do his thing. I mean, a lot of the things resonated with me growing up. But I think that little kid in me is like, yeah, I really don't want to go to church. um, so when I say like fairly certain, it's just like I just don't have. There's no way for me to like know until I like experience death, or if there maybe might be an afterlife,
Okay.
or what happens after death. It's just still up for me to what I want to believe, and I'm not rushing that at all, or. But yeah, very open-minded to like other people's beliefs and stuff like that.
Awesome. You said like there's no real way to know until death, or or if there is an after. Right? I get what you're saying. I mean, if you're dead and there is no afterlife, you won't.
Yeah.
I get you.
There's just so many things, like people like who've like died like in hospitals that just like come back to life and they see what they see, like I saw the light or something like that.
Okay.
It's just like that's all I kind of have to go off of, or what a lot of people have to go off of too. I mean,
Gotcha.
is there a way to measure that? Probably, but
So
it's not something I can feel in a way.
gotcha. So it sounds like somebody coming back to life and describing maybe an experience that they had while they were unconscious.
Right.
That wouldn't be a very good. That wouldn't be good enough to get you to the point where you'd be highly confident. That wouldn't be.
I mean, they'd have to be very convincing.
Okay, they'd have to be very convincing. If they were super convincing and they had a lot of detail,
Mhm.
I guess, would you go from fairly confident to like 100% certain that this God exists?
I think absolutely.
Really?
If it was just like in a way where they can describe just what it's like in a like a believable sense. I mean,
Okay.
obviously, like me, you, like we both have different like perspectives on things, and like I think this is just very important to note that like it's just kind of almost word of mouth type of thing,
Yeah.
and we both interpreted that very differently.
I guess, can someone have this, like, near-death experiences? Can we call it that? Is that what this is?
I think so. Yeah.
Can someone have this near-death experience and believe that they went and visited the afterlife, let's say, and actually be mistaken about that?
Probably. Most likely, actually. I read a lot about like hallucinogens, or just like the thought of kind of like spiritual awakening almost,
Okay.
where they really tune into what they believe in spirituality once they like experience something so heavy.
Yeah.
A lot of it's like near death, or like loss of a loved one, or just like intense emotion, like
Right.
or love, or like a breakup, or just like, oh, I graduated. You kind of feel that in a way. It doesn't have to be just death, right? Sorry, what was the question?
Can someone have an experience like that, and be mistaken about their conclusion that God exists? Like, can it be?
Mistaken. I think it's very plausible. Yeah, I think it's possible that they can be.
Then I guess why would hearing their story, if they can be mistaken, why would that increase your confidence?
It would increase my confidence. Do I have to hold this? Oh, sorry.
The bells.
It's all good.
It's all right there.
Okay, thank you. Why would it increase my confidence?
Yeah, like if they can be mistaken about their conclusion because of that experience. If you said if you heard their story and it was really detailed, that you might be 100% confident after listening to their story. I guess if they can be mistaken, why would you raise your confidence?
I think empathy has a lot to do with it. I mean, there's part of me that really wants to believe what they want to say, but obviously I'm going to be very kind of.
Yeah, and I guess my question isn't like I wouldn't expect you to say no, you're wrong. That didn't happen. That would But what about like your own personal confidence, your own personal belief? Before you were saying that would raise it, if I'm understanding.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess can you not raise your confidence and still be kind and have empathy?
I really hate to say this, but like, I would just like hate to disagree with them at the time.
Of course.
I would kind of have to like kind of digest whatever they have to say. If it's like depending on how it's being presented to me.
Yeah, just maybe hear them out, listen to
Hear
them.
them out.
Say,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
I mean, it can't just be like really outlandish. Yeah. I mean, I'd have to like really just, man, like.
Just be, hey, I'm so happy that you're sharing this with me.
Yeah, it's kind of like a second opinion where it's like if you're being asked, so like in a way where if someone's asking you for help, you kind of want to be like an open ear or something.
Of course.
Like that. I take that with everything, like religion as well. In terms of like my confidence in terms of like how it would like, even though it might be unlikely, is what I'm trying to get from it. I'm sorry.
Like, let me try to rephrase.
Yeah.
So let's say you listen to your friend and you're really supportive. You say, I'm so glad you told me this. This is an amazing story. Then you go home, you're, sitting in bed. After hearing that story, are you like 100% sure this a God exists now? Or are you at the same level you were before?
Oh, okay. Yeah. It would just be like, it is what one person experienced.
Right.
Will that one person have enough weight for me to have like 100% confidence? Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But for like a very compelling story of someone who experienced like something either near death or something very spiritual that happened to them.
Yeah.
I think it would persuade me even more to believe it, to be more confident into like a confidence that God exists or an afterlife exists, rather than just like fairly certain in a way.
Okay.
So it can definitely improve that.
Kind of like a cherry on top.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And when I was taking a few notes before, you said that your upbringing probably was a pretty big factor in the reason you believe.
Mm-hmm.
If someone was brought up in their childhood without any religious beliefs, any belief in a God, and maybe they were taught that the Big Bang theory was the way everything was created and there was no God necessary for that.
Right.
Would that be a good reason to believe that the Big Bang theory is true?
I think it's a good reason.
Okay.
Primarily because, I mean, that's all they had to like encounter in terms of what they believe in or their faith, or I mean, it's just knowledge of what's given to them. I don't think it's very unfair to think that their opinion is less invalid.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just like the environment that they've been surrounded by. whether it be from like school or from what they've learned on the internet. It's up for them to want to know what to believe.
Sure. If Veronica was to come over here, and she was that person into the to say the Big Bang Theory is how everything was created, and that means there was no God, and I'm listening to you tell your story. How would I figure out? I want to know what is true. I do value truth
Okay.
quite a bit. How do I determine what is true, whether to believe you or to believe Veronica?
Ooh. To believe me or Veronica?
Yeah. How should I make up my mind if I want to believe what is true?
Oh, okay. I think that really just has to go with like what you value in the information that you receive. I feel like whether you appreciate like scientific data or tangible evidence more than just like, oh, this is what I believed in like for so long, I'm going to stick to what I believe in, or like this is what I believe happened. It just goes into like stuff like that. Sorry if I'm not putting this way. This is second language.
Oh, I would have never guessed.
Really? Oh,
Never. Not in a million years.
But I'm not educated on like that topic as all. I'm not. But given the certain context, I would say like, I guess to help you out to choose to what you want to believe, it would definitely be just the level of compellingness
Okay.
in a way
Sure.
from what you want to believe is true, or what is true to your belief in a way. Everything kind of revolves around belief,
Yeah.
whether it be knowledge or faith.
If we really have a strong desire to only believe things that are true and to not believe anything that is untrue, what's the best tool or method to get there?
Tool or
And I guess thinking from you personally, what you think.
to find out what is true.
Yeah. And I guess specifically about, a God belief or,
Yeah,
you know.
that's a pretty loaded question from how I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
But
I don't mean to ask loaded
no,
questions.
it's okay. It's okay. I like thinking, so or at least prompts that make me think. I guess as a former nursing major or science major, STEM major, a lot of what you can find is true is based on data and evidence.
Okay.
And I don't want to sound like very hypocritical when I say this, but like I believe in God, but there's not a lot out there to just kind of like prove that God is real, or if God is the truth, or if whatever Christians or Catholics or anybody in that particular faith knows is like real or true in that kind of way.
Sure.
I don't want to get like controversial or anything. I don't know how like
No, I mean,
yeah.
obviously, based on what you said before, it sounds like you're going to treat everyone as a human being for them being a human rather than their religion. So I don't think what you're saying is controversial.
Okay. But I just want to like just say like the best way to find out if something is true is to definitely see things kind of in a more scientific way, but it's very important to still be human while doing it.
Of course.
I mean, part of human nature is to, obviously split into these subcategories of what we are, like in terms of not only faith, but like race, gender, sex, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Stuff that you can't really control, but faith is has a certain plasticity. That's how I see it. Like I considered myself a Christian growing up. Now, not too sure.
Okay.
So I guess it's like it's still up in the air to figure out what is true, because in a literal standpoint, I go with what I said earlier. It's like you gotta have some evidence or data to support
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. That's what I'm gonna go with.
I guess without this data or evidence, how could you know if you were mistaken?
I guess you really can't. I was really quick to that answer. I don't know why. Just kind of like, but I guess you really, really can't.
If you can't know if you're mistaken about a belief, should you hold it?
If you can't know that you're mistaken for a belief.
Yeah. If you can't know if you're wrong or not, should you hold on to that?
I think it's very important. I think it's very important to hold on to a belief that you believe is true.
Why is that?
I think it's because here's the empathy side of me going off. I think it's just something that you can always like go back to in a way. There are a lot of faiths, like Buddhist faiths, that like and Christian faiths as well, that like have like pretty like a lot of people would consider outlandish like stories in their tomes or texts or Bibles or whatever. But I feel like it's more than just like the goat talked or like God turned like these so and so people into salt or something like that. It's more of just like the story behind what that is, or like the meaning behind that, I guess, is very important. So without context,
If someone had a belief that maybe it was harming a group of people, should they be should they hold on to that belief even if they don't have any way to know if they were mistaken?
goodness.
And I'm not saying that's your belief.
Trust me. No, I get it. I get it. Ooh. I'm gonna put this into like a more like, because it sounds like extreme, like almost extremist beliefs that they put like their faith into action almost.
Yeah. And I think some people do that, perhaps.
Just like going back, there's a term that I learned called egalitarian philosophy, right? It goes back to like the trolley problem. Like, would you rather save 5 people to 1?
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, most people would rather save the 5 people because that's what egalitarian philosophy is. You want to look after the benefit for the whole.
Right.
Right. And that's very much what I believe in. So the extent of how like this person's religion or this group of people's like faith kind of revolves around just harming another particular group or like a certain people,
or if that's just a part of it or something.
Yeah. I mean, looking out for the well-being of other people, like a community as a whole, I would definitely have to say that it would be wrong to practice. I mean, I want to say there's other ways to practice your faith, but I don't know that. Rather than just harming another group of people, because you're harming technically more people by having other people look at that.
Yeah.
Not just the people that are affected.
Sure.
Because maybe the practice that they're doing is just not moral to what they see as moral or ethical or something like that. So looking at it from an egalitarian philosophy viewpoint, it's just if you're looking out for the populace as a whole, it would be considered like wrong to do something that harms the group of people.
Okay, I think I'll have the last question here.
Okay.
Possibly. Unless I think of another one.
No problem.
Should we strive to only believe in true things and try not to believe in false things?
Okay. I'm going to break it down a little bit.
Okay.
To only believe in true things much rather than false things, or just true things without the thought of false things?
Not sure I followed. Maybe I'll try to rephrase.
Yeah.
Like, try to believe, try to have as many true beliefs as possible without any false beliefs.
Ooh, without any false beliefs.
Yeah, like trying to be as true in your beliefs as possible, I guess.
True in my beliefs.
That's probably a bad phrasing. Like, if there was a magic box that would tell us everything that is true, that your beliefs should be aligned to that magical box. Assuming that box is absolutely true.
Yeah. Okay. What a weird question. I'm not gonna lie.
I guess I could simply rephrase it. Should we want to should we value believing in things that are true and try to avoid believing in things that are false?
I think it's very important to focus on what is true. In terms of believing what is true, I think it is also very important because what is true is what's already there in a way. So,
Right.
I mean, there are a lot of false things that can be very beneficial to, society as a whole. Cartoons, they're fake. Real in a sense where it's like
Yeah.
there, right?
It's there. The cartoon exists,
Yeah.
but the
That's
the
where
characters aren't.
Yeah, that's where my
real.
mind went. Like right away, it's like a talking rabbit or like a sponge that can talk. Like that's not real. But
Not exactly what my question means.
got it. Yeah, I was like, I'm sorry, my mind just kind of went there right away.
It's okay.
But in this context,
Mhm.
I want to say that it is very important to believe what is true. But like I really want to say like it's important to what you want to believe is true that can be considered morally ethical in a way. I don't want to seem like I'm spewing out words, but like that's just that's just
right.
how I feel.
I think I've possibly given you some things to think about. So
Yeah.
I'll say that's mission accomplished. I will relinquish the metaphorical question asking stick to you. And
Okay.
if you want to ask me anything or you have anything more to say, feel
Yeah.
free.
Just right away, like, is this like, I guess this whole, like, you have that YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So, what is like your purpose of trying to get like college students to kind of talk about epistemology?
Yes, you got it.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, so I like to have these conversations for one. I find it enjoyable.
Huh.
But aside from that, I really think that as a society, if the more we talk about stuff, and the more we talk about what we believe, and more importantly, why we believe it, and why we might have a good reason to believe in it,
Mhm.
I think we can get closer to what is true. If I held a belief that was very important to me, I would want someone to talk to me about it,
Right.
so I could figure out if I've used, if I want to know if I could be mistaken.
Okay.
And I think having these conversations is a really good way for us to figure out if we are mistaken or if what we believe in is actually true. And I think thinking about these things and asking these questions, not only me asking it to you, but like you might go back and think about something completely different and might be still ask yourself these questions. And I think that's something that is super, super valuable.
Wonderful. I like that. Yeah. It's better than like being one of those like booths that like try to provoke a reaction, like in a
Right.
negative context where it's like kind of like more of extremist belief.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. That's a wonderful thing you guys got going on.
Thank you.
I guess another question that I have is, have you ever disagreed with somebody who sat like across from you? Like, and how do you take it usually?
Sure. Whenever I'm having these conversations, I try to be as neutral as possible.
Right.
There's definitely been times where, usually in person, it doesn't get heated. But there have been times where I've done this type of thing online,
Mhm.
and emotions definitely can get a little high.
Right.
I think I've always handled myself really well, and I think I've always done it very tactfully and respectfully.
Mhm.
But sometimes it is rather difficult to have a conversation with someone who has a very extreme belief.
Okay.
And then they give the reason, and I can obviously see the flaw in that reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to say, hey, Is this a good reason? If someone else used this reason and came to a different conclusion, would that be a good reason? And for them to say, well, they would never do that. They'd always come to the same conclusion as me, and that can be rather frustrating. But I think it's still important and valuable to have the conversations. Did I answer the question? I feel like I rambled.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I mean, I felt like I rambled too when I was being like, I guess, interviewed.
That was my timer. we were still wrapping up. If you have more questions.
Yeah. I guess I just have one more.
Yeah.
Do you know when this is going to get posted on YouTube? I'd love to check myself out, but also like to see what you guys got going on in here.
I got to tell you what, UWGB absolutely loves street epistemology. We've had back-to-back conversations.
Okay.
So I have no idea when this is going to go up. But I will tell you what,
Okay.
absolutely loved it. And as long as my equipment didn't fail, better not have failed, camera. I'll definitely get it up there. I'll definitely get it up there. I think it was awesome.
All right. Well, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, can I have one of these?
You can have one of the cards. You can have a keychain.
Keychain. Awesome. If you don't mind, I'll take a water back there too.
Yeah,
if that's
feel free.
okay. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks,
for
Jake.
this. Yeah. Nice to meet you.
You too.